Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Copper Jacket TV. So I think that most people know, even people who don't live in California understand how difficult it is to get a carry permit in that state. Now, pre-Bruin, there was a lot of counties that just didn't issue permits at all. I mean, it was impossible unless you were a retired law enforcement officer or a judge or something like that. Us average people just forget about it. Post-Bruin, yes, now you can go through the process to get your permit. But the process is extremely difficult. There's a lot that you have to go through with mental evaluations, excessive amounts of training, and the fees can be nearly $1,300 for a permit that's going to expire in just 2 years. So the whole thing is absolutely ridiculous. But there is a lawsuit currently against the city of Laverne, and this lawsuit is exposing a lot of stuff. And thanks to the FPC, I have a chart that you guys are going to want to see. It'll show you the exact prices that each of these cities is paying. Again, up to $1,300, and I have a trick for you guys as well that might save people nearly $1,000. So let's talk about this chart. We'll take a quick look at it. Okay, so carry permits in California post-Bruin. Now, post-Bruin, California has made it extremely difficult for you to get your permit. There's a lot of hoops that you have to jump through, a lot of things that you have to do and things that you have to accomplish. There are excessive fees and excessive wait times. There's also a lot of lawsuits. There's lawsuits that are challenging cities on their excessive fees. There's lawsuits that are challenging cities on their excessive wait times, like Los Angeles County. Their wait times are, I believe, over a year right now. And as a matter of fact, over the past couple months, they just stopped issuing permits altogether for a month or two. So they just threw that off like it wasn't that big of a deal. Regardless, there's lawsuits challenging SB2 in the sensitive locations and a lot going on right now, and that is exposing a lot of information. So let's take a look at this chart. Now, this chart is going to cover different cities in Los Angeles County, or a majority of these, I believe, are in Los Angeles County. That is more than, I think, 11 million people that live within these cities. So this is, again, a huge population, and these are what the fees add up to in those areas for your permits. Now, try and keep in mind that there is, again, a way that you can avoid a lot of these fees, and I'll explain that to you as we look at the chart. Okay, so this chart is by city. It's in alphabetical order. It starts off with Alhambra and goes all the way down to Whittier, okay? Everything that we have here in between, from San Gabriel to Montebello, Monrovia, Manhattan Beach, Burbank, Covina, all of these different cities are going to be listed. And you can see that they have the chart split up by administrative fees, DOJ fees, which is a California fee. You have the live scan fee, which is going to be your fingerprinting. You have a psychological test. We have the weapon safety, which is the course. We have other fees, processing fees, amendments, which I don't even know what that type of fee is. But you can see that not all of the cities here actually apply all of those fees. Some are just left blank, some say not applicable, and so forth. Each one seems to have a different type of fee. The only fee that seems really consistent here is going to be the DOJ fee. So the fee that you're going to be paying to the California DOJ, that's going to be $93, right? The administrative fees and all other fees vary quite a bit. So as we take a look at the total number at the end here, I mean, you can see some pretty high ones, $1,235. I mean, just take a look at Alhambra, right? At the very top right there. $1,235 once you're done with all your fees. That's, I mean, almost $1,300. And then you have almost $1,200, $1,190 if you go through El Monte. So again, the prices change a lot because of all the different things that we have here. So from this chart, you can kind of get an idea of what the range is, right? So anywhere between the mid 500s range all the way up to almost $1,300. I mean, we got one here for $1,259, $1,155, $1,060, $1,267, and then we have one for $423, which is going to be Torrance. So I guess Torrance would be on the lowest end of that range. And then the last one, again, like we said, which is Whittier. Whittier's even over $1,000. And what's interesting here is there's some areas that you know are somewhat low income. There's kind of like a mix of people, like in San Fernando. San Fernando Valley is actually fairly big, and you have some areas where people have a lot of money, and then you have other areas where people are on the lower end of the income scale, right? And so it can be very difficult for people in San Fernando to be able to afford an expensive permit. But I mean, just taking a look at the charts, you could see that San Fernando is extremely expensive. I mean, just follow that green line all the way across right there, $11.55 for San Fernando. Now, like I said in the beginning, I was going to show you a way to avoid some of those fees, right? Some of those excessive fees. And the way that you do that is by avoiding getting your permit through the city. So, I mean, if we take a look just at the top one here, which is extremely expensive, which is Alhambra, right? If we were to go through the city and we go to, this is their website here, about getting a permit, it says that they use a third-party provider and that, you know, it takes 1 to 4 months, and you can go through the Alhambra Police Department in order to get it, okay? So if you live in Alhambra, that's one way that you could do it. That's not the way that I would do it. In order to avoid a bunch of those fees, the way that you should do it is by going through the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, okay? So instead of going to the city, you go through the Sheriff's Department, and the fees are half, if not more than half. Let's take a look at the chart right here. Okay, so just under the LAPD is going to be Los Angeles Sheriff, okay? So the LASD. Now we can take a look at the fees as we scroll across, and some of the fees are not applicable if you're going to get a permit through the LASD. So the total for LASD is going to be $523. Now, a majority of the people that live in these cities actually live where they can get access to the LASD. And so you can go that route if you want. I believe the waiting time is going to be a little bit longer. Again, there's a lawsuit that's challenging those excessive wait times, and we might see that come down now that they've taken that time off and restructured things, which is apparently what they were doing. But, I mean, you're talking about going from, in one city, 1,259, and then dropping that all the way down to 523 just by going through the Sheriff's Department instead of going through the city itself. I think a lot of people that just automatically think, okay, I live in Montebello, I'm going to go through the city of Montebello, and they go through that whole process, and, you know, by the end of it, they're completely broke or they max out their credit card in order to do it. This way, again, it's pretty much the same process, but a lot of those fees are not applicable. Now, I don't live in California anymore. I moved out because I have a family of 5, and I just simply couldn't afford it. I think that people think that, you know, YouTube, you make a lot of money, and it's all fine and dandy, and everything's good. That's actually not the case. You know, we do our best to try and get along, which is what we do, but I simply couldn't afford it there anymore, and so we moved out. The purpose I'm making this video is because I think that people in California deserve better. I think that you guys deserve better, and since I was born and raised there and lived there for 42 years, it's still absolutely in my heart. And so I think that if there's a way where, you know, we can move people in the right direction and help people out so they understand not only what's going on, but maybe a better way to do things, then I want to try and do that. And so again, this is more or less just me sharing information with you, and whatever you decide to do with it is totally up to you. Again, I'm just providing the information, you provide the action, okay? So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you, show you guys that chart. Obviously, if you want to, you can pause it, you know, screen it, take a look, zoom in, see if you can find your city and what you would go through versus the LASD and you know, in that process. But again, keep in mind, this is like a 2-year permit in these places, 2-year permit. And if the wait times are this long, I mean, you're going to have to get that, you're going to have to start the whole process again probably in about a year, maybe a year and a half, because if you let that time lapse, you're going to be out of it. These are all things you need to know, okay? All things that you need to know. So do your research. Anyway, just wanted to share that information with you, and I want to thank you all very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Please like, subscribe. You guys have a great day.